What is going on, everybody? Stuff is going down at the Capitol. And New Year's resolutions? Let's talk about it. I am back in my shop. I am pumped to be back here with a more serious, less whimsical podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed a little interview of my cousins. It's the first time they were on any sort of podcast, so it was kind of a fun time to laugh, get on their level a little bit, be a little less professional. But if you're an educator listening, I mean, we all know that this is things we kind of face every day, so it's kind of fun. I'm back here in the shop, back to talking 2021. You know what? I mean, it's hard to say that 2020 was a bad year for me, at least. I know some of you guys may be suffering through COVID, but in terms of 2020, I mean, I had my son, I had a new house. I bought a house during this whole pandemic thing. I mean, I started buying the house before the pandemic, and then I was in the middle of it as the closing process went on. You know, I started year 2 of teaching. I've done a lot of different things, and so it's kind of amazing where this has kind of taken me, at least in terms of 2020, and I'm looking forward to 2021. Speaking of looking forward to 2021, yesterday I turned on the news. I'm not going to talk about this a whole lot because it's a little bit irrelevant for this podcast. I'm not a political commentator or political person. In fact, these are not any sort of opinions that I may have about this is not a reflection of anyone that I represent. It's kind of shocking when you turn on the news and people are like raiding the Capitol building. I don't think I've ever seen that. I think the last time anyone here has seen that was when, like, I don't know, the British did it in 1812. And even then, I think it was the White House that they raided and burned down. Crazy. I just had, it blows my mind. It blows my mind that these people would do that. I've always been a firm believer that I've never seen one side act, professionally in an election, and this just kind of proves my point. This is like a new low, or high, depending on how you look at it. But it's kind of crazy, and there are brighter days ahead, right? I've always been a firm believer in that. There are brighter days ahead of us, regardless of who the president is, right? I think we already know who the president is now, but there are brighter days ahead, and we just got to keep working, and we got to keep pushing towards those days, right? Regardless of, who we might think is leading us, right? We're leading our own lives. So please make sure you never forget that. If you are a husband, wife, whatever, and you're the leader of your family, right? You're the leader. President Trump, President Biden, they aren't leaders of your family. You're the leader. So keep that in mind, right? You are in control of your own destiny. You need to make sure that you guys are doing the best you possibly can to grow your business, to grow your family, to grow your educational skills, to grow anything you might be listening for. It is up to you to be able to grow those and be able to have a solid, foundation, right? And that's what we really want to focus on, is a foundation for the next of line, right? I leave all of these up because I really want and focus on the next, the next line. I want my son to look back and hear these and be like, wow, dad was stupid, dad was crazy, dad was smart, dad was inspirational. I really want these to be a testament of my own education, right? My own knowledge and thought pattern. I don't want my son to look back and be like, my dad raided the Capitol building. No, I don't want that. That's not professional. That's not what a leader does. Not everything goes your way. And this goes for both sides of the political equation. Not everything goes your way. You cannot stomp your feet and be upset because it didn't go your way. My wife gets so upset when I say you can't be upsetty spaghetti. And she's like, upsetty? That's so stupid. Why are you all upsetty spaghetti then? Right? So don't be upsetty spaghetti, right? This is a new year. We want to take our lessons we learned in 2020 and reflect on those, right? Grow closer to one another and really be part of your community, and we can turn a good year or a bad year into a good year. So let's keep that going. Now, that being said, Capitol building's pretty crazy. I love political commentary. I mean, I'm not one to give it, but I love watching it. I love listening to all these different opinions on both sides of the equation. I love listening to everyone's opinion. It really upsets my wife and my mother-in-law, who are very conservative. I'm decently conservative as well, but I love listening to every single side of the argument. So I love hearing it. And I'm probably going to be listening to it all day today as I edit this podcast. First off, you're used to getting podcasts like midnight today, right? Or not midnight today, midnight today, yesterday, I don't know. You're supposed to get them today, and I'm recording them on Thursday, the day you're supposed to be getting this podcast. So what's going to to happen is you're going to hear this podcast literally right after I record it. It's going to go into edit, and then it's going to be sent out to all the services. So you will hear this probably later on today. I'm recording this in the morning of Thursday. You might hear this the afternoon on Thursday today. So understand, while I enjoy doing those whimsical types of interviews, I'm going to be making sure this podcast is more professional from here on out, and we handle more topics. I allowed myself a little bit of fun, and it's the end of the year, right? I allowed myself just a little bit more, lighthearted kind of podcast. So if you're upset or offended in any way on the podcast last time, I actually really believe it's super informative, because you really get to hear about high school kids and what they kind of go through. And so it's very, very important, right? Even though I joke around and I kind of, egg on some things, it's very important that you understand exactly what I'm saying and understand exactly what they're saying and make that link. If you're an educator and you're like, oh, this guy's so stupid, understand, I was trying to be, right? I was trying to be dumb, trying to be stupid, and trying to get a response. So you can go back on and be like, ooh, these kids think this way. What about this way? Like, how can we change and adapt? Because these are kids that are going through, our schooling system right now, and we don't really get a good chance to talk to them in a guards down kind of moment. And that's what that was. They put their guards down, they talk to you honestly, right? And just like every kid, they kind of talk about, their teachers they dislike, the teachers that they like. They talked about, a lot of stuff in their own community that they really felt the need for. So please make sure that we keep that in mind, right? And please make sure we, even though it seems unprofessional, it's really meant for a learning process, right? If I get enough tweets, I'll take it down, but I think right now it's decently all right. So let's move on. So New Year's resolutions. Now, I'm not going to do the whole resolution talk. I mean, my wife is dead set on losing weight, right? Like everyone is, weight loss, that sort of thing. Me, I'm more dead set on, okay, how can I grow as an individual? How can I grow better? How can I grow mentally? How can I grow physically, right? So I'm really focused on being healthy, really. I'm not really losing weight. If I lose weight, that's great. If I'm not, that's fine. I'm still healthy, right? I want to be healthy. I want to be mentally healthy. I want to be physically healthy. I want to be psychologically healthy. I guess psychologically and mentally are the same things, huh? But that being said, it's important that we kind of look back on the year and grow with that. I mean, I already mentioned that a couple minutes ago, but I really want to hit on this harder. If you have a business right now and your business is struggling, what can you do this year to make that up? What can you do this year to really focus in on that and create a better or a more effective business model? At the end of the day today, right? Not at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you have to be able to look back and think and reflect upon what you accomplished at the end of the day, the end of your task, the end of the week, whatever you need to reflect upon. And I think reflection is probably one of the biggest things in teaching, right? We kind of talk about it in credential classes. We even talk about it in professional developments the school gives us. We talk about going back and reflecting upon what we did. And a lot of teachers are like, oh, I keep a reflection log, and I log at the end of every day and reflect upon my lesson. Well, that's fantastic, Debbie, but I don't do that, right? I tend to actually personally reflect on the ends of units. So once I'm done with a unit, I'll kind of think back and be like, ooh, that sucked. The issue is, and where I kind of make fun of people, but I also kind of understand, one of the issues is that we do all these reflections, right? Even if we actually look back and just focus or think about what we could do better next time, we think about these reflections and then we actually don't write them down, and when we forget those elections, we don't know what to do, not necessarily what to do, but we don't know how to take those reflections and grow upon them. And I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes down to reflection-wise that we really all need to focus on is, okay, we reflected, but now how can we reflect, or how can we take our reflections and convert them and utilize them and use them for a better or a more effective way of teaching the unit or the next unit or whatever. A prime example of this is I taught a unit on, I can't exactly remember, but I taught one unit. I'm like, oh, this really sucked. How can I fix that? So I thought of different ways that I can go about fixing things, and I made those fixes. With this podcast, I mean, you guys all know the story. I should probably re-record episode 1 just to make it better, because I feel like I can make episode 1 a lot better. But, the reason for this podcast was I was trying to anticipate a problem, and I was trying to fill a need, right? I learned a tremendous amount. Every time I do something, it's because I'm learning, I'm reflecting on it. I learned episode 1 sucked. sucked. I'm going to try it better in episode 2. Okay, I fixed my sound problem. Now how can I make myself sound more fluid? How can I have better conversation? How can I continue on with what I'm talking about? So episode 3, 4, 5. Here we are, episode 19. In episode 18, I did my first interview, and I learned a lot, right? Maybe interviewing kids is probably not the best way to go unless I have a more professional or, I don't know, mature kid. Not saying those kids were immature. I'm just, maybe I need to introduce the podcast a little bit more, introduce it differently to them, right? To get my desired effect. Because in reality, I want these podcasts to be a couple things. I want to be a guide, or not really a guide, but a chronicle for different teachers so they can look back and like, oh, this guy really did this. I like what he's saying. I want to do it. I don't like what he's saying. I know that doesn't work for me because I doesn't really like it. I want them to be like a chronicle. I want kids to be able to listen to interviews with industry professionals and listen to how they struggled and where they have gone, how they got there, and then they can, dream and go that route if they choose to, right? I want this podcast to be something bigger than it is, right? I think that's what everyone wants. But understand each episode's like a learning process, right? I learn, I reflect, and be like, oh, okay, that didn't work too well, or I didn't like that way, I'm gonna change, right? I've never removed an episode, so you can go back and listen to all of my episodes and see how they chronicle to this one, how they change because, or not how they change, but how I changed because of the prior episodes, and I changed into this episode right here. That being said, it takes a lot of reflection and a lot of changes. Okay, you reflected on it. That's fantastic. You did one half of the work. Arguably, the hardest part is trying to now change, is taking that reflection. If we're reflecting on last year, what can we learn from last year and how can we change it so it doesn't happen again this year? If we're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again and not have any change, then why are we even doing that same thing over and over and over again? Naturally, things have to change. You are never going to get a blanket thing that stays the same for years upon years upon years upon years upon years, because it naturally is going to change. Look at this country, right? We have changed tremendously in the last, almost 300 years that we've been around. No, not almost, I guess almost 250 years, right? Roughly. I don't know. We've changed a lot as a country. And my wife is always like, well, what would our founding fathers think about this in the Capitol building? I said, well, they've seen it, right? The British invaded Washington, D.C., or Virginia at that time. I don't think it was Washington, D.C., and they've seen that. But they also understand that people and countries change, and they anticipated that change when they wrote our documents. And we don't have a government upon a person. We have a government upon a bunch of documents that a bunch of people wrote. And personally, I really believe that those documents are tried, true. A lot of countries have copied us, and that's fantastic. They know it works, right? We have learned from our mistakes. We had our Articles of Confederation before we came to the United States. We were something different, right? We were a confederacy. Not the Confederacy, we were a confederacy. We were a Confederate government, and the federal government didn't have any leeway, right? It was very big into state governments. I'm a big states' rights guy, but it didn't really work for the country, so we came together and we formed our 3 branches of government. We formed a bunch of different things. Congress is our main branch of government, right? Our main one. A lot of people want to point the president as the main one. The president has gotten way too much power. President wasn't supposed to have that much power. They were just the face or the leader of America, because you couldn't bring the entire Congress to London to meet the Prime Minister of England. You just couldn't do it. So you had one guy be our face, and he reports to Congress. If something doesn't work, we have our court system, who, regardless of what anyone might think, me personally, I really truly believe that our court system works very well. Regardless of what anyone may think, I really truly believe that it works fantastically well. I get really upset at it, right? Like normal, it's okay. But when you look back on it, the court system does kind of work pretty good, right? Nothing that's went to the court that has been struck down or upheld has really, has not made sense. I guess nothing just completely blew my mind. It all made kind of sense after the initial shock went away. But reflection, right? We want to reflect upon our prior dealings. We want to reflect upon what we have done prior to whatever we're trying to do, right? And we want to learn from those reflections. I think that's probably the biggest biggest thing is to make sure we keep learning and we keep attacking and keep changing. And change is okay. A lot of people are scared by change, and that's also kind of okay too. But that being said, we shouldn't let change get in the way of a better product. So when we think about New Year's resolutions, when we think about resolving for the New Year's, find out what you did poorly last year. What did you do poorly? Me personally, I overthunk a lot of things. I gave and devoted time to things that I shouldn't give time to. I really focused on a lot of things I shouldn't have focused on. So this year, I reflected. I'm going to change, right? I'm going to shift my focus just a little bit. Spend a little bit more time with people. Be a little bit more connected. Spend more time in my craft. Focus a little bit more on my teaching and how I educate the next generation. Be more present and be better, right? And I think we all need to do that. I think we all just need to focus and work on being better. We had a student teacher, and I always told her, I said, you're right now, you may be good, but your good is not your better, and your better is not your best. Now, I've talked about this in a previous podcast, how to make your better best. I think is what it's called. I can't remember. But I'm going to echo that, right? If we were good last year, okay, how can we be better? If you were better last year than you were the prior year, okay, well, how can you be your best self? If you were bad last year, if you did a lot of bad things and you burnt a lot of bridges, okay, well, how can you be good again? What do you need to do to become good? You're not going to become better, right? You got to become good first. Once you become good, then you can focus on becoming better. Then once you become better, you can focus on becoming your best. Very few people make it to the best, and I'm going to really try my hardest to make it to the best. I'm not even in better yet, right? I feel like I'm good, but I'm not. I want to be better. I want to focus more, be better, be a better person, change more lives, become better. I hope everyone enjoys all of these podcasts. I really try to give it my all. I really try to, take them seriously when they need to be serious and tone back when they need to tone back. And again, if you were upset or if you're like, this is not the podcast I subscribe to. Well, first off, I don't know what to tell you. I tried to have some fun. It was a family kind of, not really a vacation, a little getaway. And I was trying to hopefully relate to some of my younger viewers or my teachers. Right? It will be different from now on. I understand I've gotten a lot of feedback, so it will be different as time goes on. That being said, this episode is going to be a tiny bit shorter, maybe 19, 18 minutes, who knows. But I just want to leave you guys on one thing, right? Our country, while it may seem rough right now, understand we are all in this together. I'm praying for each and every one of you, and I hope you guys have a fantastic new year. Hope you guys have the best year yet, because that's what this year is going to be. Right? We need to be positive. We need to focus. 2020's in the rear view mirror. We have brighter, better days coming. I promise you that. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Good morning, good night, wherever you are. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. And I will catch you guys next week with another episode. I think this is episode 19. Ooh, we're almost at episode 20. I'll see you guys later. Peace. This has been an episode of the Chip Happens podcast. Thank you all for listening, and I will catch you next week with another exciting episode.